Welcome to Ironworks Speed and Custom. I'm glad you could join us for another update on this month's projects. We've got quite a few Chevelle things going on this month, and we'll kind of go over with you some of the progress of the refurbishment, or whatever you'd like to call the remodel that we've done on this car, just to upgrade it to some new standards. And we've got Rob's Chevelle here that's getting ready to get tuned as well and ready for the road. And let's go over some of those details. So, as we told you before, this is a car that we built. I think we started on it 13 years ago. The car was painted probably 20 years ago. Greg just didn't like the way it drove. Stock, big block, just wasn't that much fun. It's, you know, it's squirrely. It doesn't turn great. It doesn't do a lot of stuff well stock. As soon as you've driven an LS motor, you start to understand why fuel injection is such a great advantage. And so the discussion was made back then to, hey, let's put an LSA motor in it. Let's build a chassis for it to make it sit right. And fast forward 13 years later, probably 12 or 13,000 miles on the car, and things have just gotten better. You have an LSA that's had a little bit of a lifter tick in it once in a while. And so the decision was made to contact Don Hardy and see if we could build an LS engine that's not meant to be big power, but it's not hard that they make big power, but something that's meant to drive good, have good cooler air intake temperatures for the road tours, because you can see the many badges on the windows for all the tours that it's been on. There's two here, there's two over there. At this point, it's sitting out front. We've got a basic tune in the car. It's really rough from the final product. We're trying to get this car and we're trying to get Rob's car to where they're both ready for our tuner to come up here, and we will get them all dialed in. So let's get into the engine, show you some of the stuff. It's not quite done, but it's quite a deal. So what we did here, everything else is the same. Obviously the firewall, the brake system, the inner fenders, the down bars, the shocks were triple adjustable before. Now they've just been tuned by JJ from One Up. And so he's gone through the Ride Tech shocks and put up-to-date valving that we've been running in the new cars. And so we had to trim out this little part here that we'll detail here pretty soon to get the blower to clear, with just making sure that if anything rocked over, it wasn't going to move. That's the Hair Up 2600 blower, so it's much bigger in displacement. We figure it's going to give more power on the top end and should roll into it a little bit less on the bottom end, but make a lot more steam on the big end. Most everything else was able to fit back in. The air intake tube, we upgraded it to a Wagner drive system because 13 years ago they didn't have anything. And so we had this hodgepodge of GM Corvette stuff and LSA stuff to get it to fit in here, because the LSA had the alternator down low. Now it's up high. Other than that, everything else kind of hooked back up. The AC hoses are a little different length. Just a few odds and ends here and there to make things different and upgraded. So many years ago, it was when we were building this car for Greg originally. As you Chevelle guys will know, this dash, the whole entire assembly is made of plastic. The top, the bottom, the glove box, the gauges, everything is plastic. And so we wanted to do something that was a little bit different. Way back when, we figured out a way to kind of hodgepodge this gauge together, this gauge cluster together with the gauges staggered like this, and we decided to machine this cluster. And so we wound up selling quite a few of these when it was all said and done. It was kind of something that was never, people weren't machining entire dashes at this point. And so it's the same size as the stock unit, but now it's all billet aluminum. It allows you to run a different headlight switch, a different wiper switch, just things that are more modern, better switches, instead of just dealing with something from an OEM reproducer that, you know, might work most of the time. And giving you a little different, you know, turn signal indicators, high beam indicators, just stuff that wasn't stock. Over the years, with all the road trips, it was decided to put that big old stereo system in there so that you could upload the maps when you're going through different towns. You could see where you needed to go easily, and just made it easy on the fly to not have to look on your phone and Usually I was the guy driving this car on the road tours and leading, and so having a bigger map of just showing where to go and how to get there, showing up through the Apple CarPlay, made it very convenient. These seats in here are just the stock ones that have been cut down. The springs have been removed. They've been refoamed. Jan von Kooten did these seats many years ago, the front and the rear seat. The backs, we've replaced the door panels with the carbon units from the Legacy car. This upper seat isn't back in here because the seat that was in here is a little wider than what fits on these new panels, so we need to trim that down just a little bit. We've put power windows in the car, so you don't have to try and reach over and use the power window, use the window crank handle anymore. So that's all gone, but we haven't put the speaker grills or any of that stuff into the door panels yet. We've just set that stuff on there with no trim, and the armrests and those pieces will get it bolted on here shortly. Some of the other items that we're tending to on the car is the wheel hoops are pretty beat up from 12 years of service in all kinds of different conditions, and so we've ordered a new set of outer hoops and inner hoops just to replace the hoops on the wheels. Exact same size. We're probably going to clear coat them so that we don't have to worry about polishing them and doing those things for a long time. The ride height isn't quite set on this car. You can see it's a little askewed to, looks like the driver's side. The other thing that we've developed on this one is that we put some of our spoilers in there. All the Legacy cars have had it, and so we had an extra one of these on the shelf and put it on there. It doesn't have our upgraded fog lights in it yet, but we'll probably throw a set of those on there. And we've just always thought the USA 1 license plate on the front of these cars just looks appropriate. No better way to celebrate your country than 700 horsepower in a 70s Chevelle. Thanks for taking the time and checking out the cars, and look forward to sharing what we're doing on other projects in the future.